right, John. We got a lot going on. We're back to talking about COVID tonight, and you have been telling us for weeks how a really surprising uptick, at least in the reporting, has been going on. How are you, John?
Well, Jason, it's good to see you. How are you doing? You
I'm
look
doing
great
well. It's
again.
good to see you. Thank you. My
How
hair
come
is
you
growing
always look
back.
great? I mean,
Because my
we
hair is
just went
growing
through a
back.
two year pandemic, and you haven't taken a sick day. You haven't had so much as the sniffles, and you're walking around in the snow. I mean, do we attribute this to quinoa? I mean,
No, I don't like
what is the
quinoa.
secret? Yeah, well, neither
Kombucha.
do I. So thank God
Well,
that's not the answer. But I mean,
organic food
no,
as much as possible.
dude, 2 years through a pandemic, and you haven't had the sniffles.
Well, I'll tell
Me,
you what.
I'm coughing 24 hours a day. The audience knows that I'm always coughing. But
But
look great, feel great.
thank you. Avoid
What's the
booze.
story? Booze?
Don't
How much
drink
booze?
booze.
Oh, you
Don't
don't
drink
drink booze.
booze. I mean,
So
you've
you and
been with me to dinner and stuff. I'll have a glass of wine, but I'm not drinking
yeah,
every day.
no.
And I just try to avoid excessive drinking. There was a time in my life where I would have, half a dozen beers at a time and everything and do that several
hmm
days a week. And I was starting to get
hmm
fat and tired. And, you wake up in the morning and you can't go to the gym and stuff like that. So definitely the number one thing that you can do to improve your health if you want to lose weight and just kind of detox your body is to stop drinking alcohol. I'm not telling people to do that, but I think it does help. It helps your skin, it helps your mind, it
hmm
helps kind of everything. And avoid
Trump
fast
doesn't
food.
drink, right?
That's
Trump
right.
doesn't drink. Yeah, and he's
Yeah,
got
but
a
he
lot
does
of
eat
energy for a
Kentucky
guy.
Fried Chicken and stuff.
Yeah, he eats lousy food, but he doesn't drink. And
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
very
But
interesting.
what's happening in
Very
Shanghai, John, you're
yeah.
asking the question tonight, have we been Shanghai'd? We've been hearing that the place is under lockdown, and today's picture shows a woman behind a plastic fence getting some food delivered, and that plastic fence is holding in all the COVID.
Yeah, these yellow plastic fences. If you guys
Yeah.
haven't seen these yellow plastic barricades they have in China, these are far superior to the plastic barricades that we have in America. And how can I say that? Because we'll look at the results. So when we look at the results of COVID in Shanghai, clearly these yellow barriers are fabulous. So we'll take a closer look at that. But the reason I was asking, have we been Shanghai'd? This isn't just literally about Shanghai, the city, and what's happening there. It's all of a sudden, it seems as if the news media doesn't really want to talk about COVID that much anymore.
Yeah.
COVID is kind of yesterday's news. And it's all, again, we talked about this last week when I was saying, remember going to the three-ring circus, and there's so many things happening at the three-ring circus at the same time. It's hard to really focus on any one thing. And next thing you know, it's like, well, what happened to the guy that was juggling the chainsaws? He's already gone. And, because the elephants came in. And what I think we're seeing here with this war with Ukraine and Russia, all of a sudden, there's a shiny new object, so to speak, in the news cycle. And COVID has become yesterday's news. And is it convenient? Is it surreptitious? And I want to take a closer look at that, because now they're having the worst of it in China. In fact, if you want to explain to the audience how, when we go to the patron only hour, we're going to do the deep dive, but I've got a couple slides to share with this audience on YouTube.
Sure.
But we just got a strike for a show we did a couple months back or whatever. So I don't, we got to be very careful about what we talk about here. That's why we have our patron only hour. So
Exactly.
that's
And I was
that's where we do the deep stuff.
absolutely, I was going to remind people that they can, join us in various, on various platforms, various channels. People who aren't yet subscribed to the John E. Hoover YouTube channel, it's totally free. Go over there and get subscribed. I mean, unfortunately, as you mentioned, John, we've had to take this kind of divide and conquer approach, because we've got social engineers who want to completely wipe out CrowdSource the Truth. So people can join us on the John Cullen Investigates channel. CrowdSource the Truth 5 is under strike still, so people can watch on CrowdSource the Truth 6. But of course, the best way is to become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and Subscribestar and Patreon/Crowdsource the Truth. It's the first of the month, and that's a good time to sign up, become a sponsor. You can spend the whole weekend watching all the shows. You can even get a 3-day free trial on subscribestar.com/Crowdsource the Truth. Dip your toe in the pool, get your feet wet, and that kind of thing. But let's take a look, John, at what's going on in Shanghai. What have you prepared in the slide deck today?
Well, if we roll back 2 years and we look at this pandemic, one of the questions I was asking back then was, well, I was looking around Asia, and I was looking at India, and I was looking at Africa, and I was then turning to Dr. Tedros and saying, I'm looking at the official numbers here, and and I'm kind of dumbfounded by how low some of these numbers were. Okay, well, I'll leave it at that. That's about all I can say, is that the numbers were surprisingly low 2 years ago in other countries.
You might even say unusually low, Brett.
Unusually low. And so as the focus at the early stages of the pandemic 2 years ago was on countries like Italy and France and Iran, I think, I was looking at Vietnam and Thailand and Cambodia and Laos and Mongolia, Korea. I was looking in the region. I was looking at countries that border China.
Yeah.
And I was somewhat stunned by the low numbers of people that were dead. And then when I started to focus on the Johns Hopkins map, and I started to look at China per se and focus in on China, the number of people dead in Wuhan was lower than West Virginia today.
Boy, it's really going up, isn't it, each week?
It is. So now we're at 50% of the people that have died in China have died in the last 4 weeks. And yet that's not in the news. So the data that we're citing, that you're showing the audience right now, is directly from the Johns Hopkins University School of Public Health. This is their mapping system based on the ArcInfo ESRI.
Look at this number
here.
Total, billion.
Yeah, 3.27.
But that's just Chinese. That's just China.
No. Is that? Yeah. That's just in China.
That's just in China. If we go to the U.S.
Deselect China. Just deselect China on the left. Click it once. And that'll
there
be,
you go.
yeah.
10,
so that's
almost
11 billion vaccines
crazy.
Globally. Yeah. So that's how many vaccines have been sold and delivered by the combination of all these companies, though. So this isn't just Pfizer and Moderna. It's AstraZeneca. It's the Cuban one. It's the Kazakhstan one, right? Remember, we saw that there were vaccines that were being produced in a number of countries.
Yeah.
So the ones that are FDA approved or authorized in the United States are Pfizer, Moderna, and did Johnson & Johnson get approval for theirs yet, or not yet?
Well, it had that emergency. I don't think so.
Yeah, but the other two.
I think that guy was friends with Trump. The CEO was friends with Trump, so they kind of like got it in there.
He owns the Jets. Yeah, he owns the New York Jets football team. That's Woody Johnson of Johnson & Johnson, and they own the New York Jets, and Trump was a big supporter of his and vice versa. And
is Woody a real name, or that's a nickname for Walter or something, isn't it?
Robert Wood Johnson. That's his middle name is Wood.
Wood is a name?
Yes.
Interesting.
Robert Wood Johnson.
It's a good name for a woodpecker.
He was the ambassador to the UK. So as an ambo to the UK, he got to see some interesting spy stuff.
Well, I think you also get some good opportunities to make deals for Johnson and Johnson in England if you do that.
Quite possibly.
Probably.
Quite possibly. Quite possibly. So going back to this map and the representation of the data and the question, did we get Shanghai'd? I think we have to kind of now look back and say, well, wait a second. Did China pull a fast one? Remember last week I told you, we were talking about Barry Sanders with the head fake, and Barry Sanders would look one way and run the other way. And there was a quarterback. In fact, we talked about the New York Jets. Joe Namath was famous for looking one way and throwing the ball the other way. And so I kind of feel like maybe she in China did this. Now, the question is, did she have any help?
Joe Namath is famous for this.
Joe Namath. Yeah, he is a riot.
What's with that fur coat? That's terrible.
He showed up on the sidelines like in 1968, the year after they won the Super Bowl or something like that, and he shows up in a fur coat on the sidelines.
Is that why?
For real?
Huh.
Yeah. There it is. Yeah.
Wow. So this is his thing, is a fur coat. The first time I ever saw it
he was the first rock star. He was the first
Huh.
$1 million athlete. He was the first athlete to sign $1 million contract.
Wow. Amazing that was in our lifetime. And then now some guy just had a $200 million or more, maybe.
And exactly. And Joe was shaking his head. So Joe was the first $1 million athlete. So,
wow.
All right, let's get back to Shanghai.
Messi. Holy cow. Wait a minute. Look at this.
Yeah.
Who is Lionel Messi? And he's getting $600 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
Patrick Mahomes, $500 million.
That's absurd. All right, anyway.
You want to see absurd? Do me a favor. Let's do this ad hoc. Pull up. There's an article today about the salaries of the guys in Amazon because Jeff Bezos is no longer CEO. Now he's just chairman. And the new CEO, I think it's Breitbart. The new CEO of Amazon has a pay package this year that brought in about $200 million. And what you're going to see is that there's a whole bunch of other executives making $50 million, $60 million a year.
Wow.
As executives, maybe just go to Breitbart and we'll find it real quick.
Well, and then the other thing that's happening is there was some news I saw that in Staten Island there is a Amazon, factory or warehouse where the employees are the first union.
Yeah, there's a lot of that happening now. Amazon, you're seeing this this push towards unionization, and Peppermint Patty is stepping down. So that's a real heartbreak.
Yeah, but she's going to go on to on MSNBC. It's going to be very annoying. We're going to have to listen to her all the time.
That's great.
And now they have X
there is a story.
Coming.
Yeah, there's a story on Breitbart about the executive at Amazon making $200 million a year. Maybe zoom out a little bit. I'll bet you find it. Just scroll down a little more. $200 million a year at Amazon.
Chinese robots are testing people for coronavirus. They should.
Yeah, go to my deck. We're going to cover that. Let's go to the deck.
They should get the anal swabbing robot. That's perfect.
Go to my deck.
For Jeff
Go to my deck. All right, so scroll down, and let's see what we've got.
Here we are.
So next page. Jen Psaki is leaving the White House.
Lisa says that Joe Namath was playing football wearing pantyhose.
Yeah, well, that was before they had Under Armour, and he figured out that if he put on pantyhose, it was spandex, and that it worked. And so he wore it to stay warm because it was freezing in New York. All right, so here is a story. China introduces robot arms for the coronavirus throat swabs.
This looks like a whole entire robot doctor.
Yes, and this is very comforting to all you.
Why does it have a hat? What does it need the hat for?
To make it a little bit more anthropomorphic so that you're not so scared of it, right? So you're not afraid it's going to
that's not helping.
Pierce your brain. So you just put your chin here and trust that the robot is never going to malfunction. Now let's go to the next slide. So the next
you
slide
say on a first date, right?
Exactly. China did make anal swabs mandatory for foreigners. so if we combine these two stories, now keep in mind, this was a year ago. So the anal swabs aren't, so if you're going to go to Shanghai, you're going to get Shanghai'd. Now, the question is, will there be a robot to do the
Yeah.
anal swabs? And will foreigners be subjected to anal testing with the robot in China, or are they going to continue to do it manually? And these are the kind of topics I like to cover on the show.
Well, if you're reading Drudge Report, which I know you are, they had a thing yesterday saying that sex robots are better for threesomes. So maybe you could get anal swabbed with your wife or something, and a robot.
They sell these on Alibaba. I mean, left and right. They make these things in China.
It's like a rubber mannequin. Why would
they're
you?
Made out of latex and steel. It's like rebar joints and latex, and they bang these things out in China and sell them on Alibaba for $200-300. And I think during COVID they probably sold a bazillion of them. But yeah, so the CEO, go back to my deck because I've got a couple of the slides there. But the CEO of Amazon took home $200 million. But China is a disaster. I guess not. That was it. So China is a disaster. We got 13,000 people dead according to the WHO, and so the WHO is the blue map. That's the WHO. So the World Health Organization publishes this map. And keep in mind that the mapping technology is the same. So it's not like the Johns Hopkins map is my map and this isn't. They're all based on the same fundamental technology that takes the data and puts it somewhere based on, in this case, nationality, right? So that's the where factor here. So where is China? So based on querying the database, we're looking at a map of China. And it's showing us that there's 13,300 people dead in China. Huh. The problem is that that's less than Tennessee. That's the problem.
People want you to buy the robot dinner before the anal swab.
Exactly. Well, that's why robots are so wonderful. So you don't have to buy them dinner. But you get to unplug them whenever, and you can watch the entire game. All right. So the point here is that this is a very uncomfortable set of facts. This set of facts coming from Johns Hopkins is staggering, and the media won't talk about it. Half of the people that died of COVID in China died in the last 4 weeks. Look at the white spike on the right. More people were dying in China than ever. That's deaths in white. More people were dying in China than ever before. And look at the red on top. Look at the number of cases. The number of cases, more than half of the cases, 774,000 cases, compared to 1.4 million. Wow. Now, there's more cases, I think, in...
Well, they're testing a lot more.
Well, I don't know that they're testing more. I mean, that's an assumption. You could say, are they testing more?
Well, I think they are, because when I went to find images for today, it said, like, people line up as mass testing begins.
Yes. In Shanghai, yes, and Hong Kong. So they're finding more cases, but the total number of cases in China... Can you open up Worldometers or Worldometers.info?
Sure. Which would you prefer?
Worldometer. Let's do Worldometer today. I think we've only got like 4 more minutes or 5 more minutes before we have to go to our Patreon only. But I want to do some of this ad hoc stuff and show you guys sort of why it doesn't make sense. So when you scroll down, go to USA, scroll down to USA. You're in the right page. Just scroll down a little bit. Oh, you already passed it. Yeah.
This.
Click on USA. Yeah, click. Now you have it by states. So now we're going to look at the states. And if you click on the top where it says total deaths, you see the 4th column in is total deaths. Click on that.
Yeah.
And now we're sorted. So California's got 90,000, Texas 87,000, Florida 73. So scroll down to 12,000, 12 or 13,000. Who has 12? All right.
Colorado. Easy. Minnesota, right, so Washington,
Oklahoma.
Mississippi.
All right, so Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Maryland. Maryland has more people dead. Maryland than China. Maryland. Maryland isn't much bigger, than Central Park.
I mean, what about like Rhode Island? Is Rhode Island the smallest state? What's the least populous state? Probably like South Dakota or something.
From population, I'm not sure, but you keep scrolling, you'll get to the, who's got the fewest dead. There you go. Alaska, Vermont, yeah, 600.
Why are they doing so well?
And the population is
pretty
to the
low.
right. Yeah, DC is real low. But again, to compare China, all of China, the entire country of China, 1.4 billion, and Wuhan. So the point is that the panic was about what was happening in Wuhan. And if you look at the news in April of 2020, we shut the world down. We shut down air travel. Why do we do that? There weren't 5,000 people dead in China.
Because they want everybody to listen to Fauci.
We shut down air travel around the world, everywhere. Everybody was grounded. They put the planes away for months. And there weren't 5,000 people dead in China. Now we're at 12 or 13,000 dead. Almost as many as Maryland.
What did you think about this, John?
News. That's not in the news. Right. So this is over. Right.
Well,
it's
the airline
over.
CEOs call on Biden to lift the mask mandate on planes. They have to be worried about lawsuits and people getting sick. So obviously they're less worried about that than they are about the effect that this is having on the airline industry.
We're going to look at New Zealand and how New Zealand is welcoming people in now, as they have more people dead than ever before. These things don't make sense. Yeah. So more people are dying in New Zealand right now than ever. Right. Yeah. Zoom in. That's it. Click.
Just
click.
How do I get to it though?
You got it.
It's not.
Click and drag.
I mean, I know that's New Zealand, but it's not clicking it up.
You see the red dot?
Is it?
You see the red dot?
I don't.
See, I can see the red dot from here.
I'm colorblind.
Must be.
Where is it?
There's a red dot. Right. Well, you just skimmed right past it. It's interesting that you can't see it.
Yeah, I know. But anyway, I can't see it, and Enfang Dong can't give me a way to find things.
Yeah. So again, what's going on here? There's still, according to Johns Hopkins, there's still not 10 people dead in Shanghai.
Where's
so
the
Shanghai's
dot?
on. I don't know. You'd have to. You know what? Go, pull it up on the left side. Go to the top on the left, and we're running out of time now. All the way on the top, you're going to get to Korea, right? And then the next one down is Germany, and keep going, and you'll get to New Zealand, because New Zealand has a fair number of cases in the last
aren't there like
28 days.
109?
There they are. There they are, right below Turkey.
Yeah. There's the dot.
There you go.
Oh, I can see that. I just didn't notice it.
Okay, now look on the right. Look at the white and look at the red on the right-hand side.
Wow.
More people have died. 251 people died in the last 4 weeks.
Dead in all of New Zealand, and it's 251 in the last month, and they want you to fly there?
Now, right. So now they're dropping the restrictions, and I'm looking at the right-hand side, and I'm like, you guys have more cases and more people dying now than ever. Why is now a good time to lift the restrictions of all times? Who came up with this plan? But you're not allowed to question. You're not allowed to question authority.
No, you're not. You're not even allowed to say certain words. I'm going to go out on a limb, John, and I'm going to bet that the dumbest person we know, Joe Biden, might have come up with that plan. But we do have to break, John. We're going to get into detail on this information and more when we continue in less than 5 minutes on subscribestar.com/I am John Cullen. patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, and subscribestar.com and patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. Join us there. We're going to go on for another hour, and we're going to get into a lot more detail about this and additional information that John has prepared on the deck. So join us in just under 5 minutes.